title, Rising Waters, China's Battle Against Widespread Flooding and Reservoir Pressure. In recent days, vast regions of China have been grappling with widespread flooding caused by persistent, heavy rainfall. Torrential downpours, some continuing for several consecutive days, have overwhelmed rivers, saturated soil, and triggered a chain of hydrological consequences that stretch across multiple provinces. From southern lowlands to central mountainous regions, water levels in rivers and reservoirs have been rising steadily, prompting emergency responses and raising concerns about the integrity of water management. The relentless rainfall has saturated watersheds, pushing many rivers beyond their borders. In several areas, water has spilled over embankments and surged into towns, submerging streets, disrupting transportation, and damaging farmland. Emergency services have been mobilized, with crews working around the clock to evacuate residents, reinforce dikes, and clear drainage systems. Urban drainage networks, especially in older cities, have struggled to cope with the intense influx of water, resulting in widespread surface flooding in some districts. Authorities have shifted their focus toward managing the country's complex network of reservoirs and dams. Many of these reservoirs, originally designed for water storage, irrigation, and power generation, are now facing extreme pressure. Rain-swollen rivers are feeding directly into these artificial lakes, pushing them closer to maximum capacity. The priority for water managers has shifted to controlled releases, balancing the risk of downstream flooding with the necessity to preserve the structural safety of these massive containment systems. The possibility of reservoir overflow has triggered heightened alerts. In key locations, dam operators have initiated preemptive water discharges to reduce stress on aging infrastructure. These discharges, while necessary, have contributed to rising water levels in downstream regions, where towns and cities are now fortifying embankments and deploying flood barriers. Water control departments continue to issue updates, monitoring meteorological patterns and adjusting reservoir output based on the evolving weather conditions. Residents living near large dams and reservoirs have been advised to remain vigilant. In some locations, precautionary evacuations have been carried out, especially in areas with previous histories of flood impact. Emergency shelters have been opened to accommodate those displaced, and supplies such as drinking water, food, and medical assistance are being provided by local governments. In rural areas, the floodwaters have inundated rice paddies, vegetable fields, and aquaculture zones. Farmers have reported significant crop loss due to waterlogging. As the rains persist, standing water is also increasing the risk of soil erosion and landslides in hilly regions, compounding the disaster's complexity. In mountainous provinces, local authorities are patrolling known landslide zones and rerouting traffic to avoid dangerous slopes that have become unstable under the weight of prolonged moisture. Urban centers have not been spared. Metro systems in several major cities have been affected, with some stations experiencing partial shutdowns due to water ingress. Businesses in flood-prone zones are shuttered as a precaution, and sandbags line storefronts. Public transport in affected districts is operating on adjusted schedules, and schools in low-lying areas have suspended in-person classes. In regions where flood control infrastructure is robust, the situation remains under close watch. However, in less developed rural areas, there are concerns about the long-term resilience of levees and small-scale dams. Some of these older structures are being closely monitored for signs of seepage or deformation. Local governments have deployed engineers to reinforce vulnerable spots using geotextiles, rocks, and temporary steel frameworks. Meteorologists have warned that the weather system responsible for the deluge is not expected to subside immediately. More rain is forecast across central and southern China in the coming days. Given the saturated conditions of the soil and the already elevated river levels, any additional precipitation poses a renewed risk of flash floods and further pressure on reservoirs. The National Emergency Response System remains in high alert. Coordination between provinces has been intensified to share hydrological data and mobilize support across affected regions. Teams of first responders, including military personnel, firefighters, and medical workers, are stationed in flood-prone zones to act quickly in the event of worsening conditions. Infrastructure such as power lines and communication towers is being inspected, and, in some cases, temporarily shut down in areas where flooding poses electrical hazards. Utility companies are working in tandem with emergency crews to prevent service interruptions and ensure the public remains informed about ongoing developments. While the scale of the current flooding is considerable, China has faced similar hydrological challenges in the past. The country's extensive dam system, one of the most sophisticated in the world, continues to serve as both a safeguard and a point of concern. As rainfall becomes more intense and weather patterns more unpredictable, pressure grows on water management systems to adapt and respond rapidly. Despite the challenges, there have been moments of resilience and coordination. Volunteers have joined disaster relief teams, assisting with sandbagging operations and delivering aid to isolated communities. In cities, residents are helping one another move to higher ground and offering shelter to those affected. Public messaging campaigns have kept citizens informed about the steps to take in emergencies, from emergency hotline numbers to evacuation routes. In schools and workplaces, flood drills conducted earlier in the year have proven useful. In several instances, early warnings and community awareness have reduced the potential for harm. The synchronization between weather services, emergency responders, and local governance has become a cornerstone of flood risk mitigation. As the days unfold, the focus remains on weather patterns and the capacity of reservoirs to manage additional inflow. Experts continue to model potential scenarios and simulate emergency releases. The emphasis remains on minimizing human impact while safeguarding critical infrastructure. Looking ahead, there is growing recognition of the need for investment in both hard and soft flood control measures. While levees and dams remain essential, urban planning, natural buffer zones, and climate resilience initiatives will likely play larger roles in reducing vulnerability. China's current flooding situation is a stark reminder of the delicate balance between natural forces and man-made infrastructure. The next phase will depend on weather developments and the continued efficiency of emergency protocols. For now, communities remain cautious, bracing for what may still come while doing everything possible to hold the line against the rising waters.